sometime after the axial age, we became completely messed up. We recognize something, we recognize its power, and we didn't know exactly how to deal with it. Or perhaps we lost how to deal with it because we had so many other things to worry about. We had so many other things that we were concerned about. Now we had houses, we had castles, we had armies, we had to worry about taxes. So we began to lose a knowledge that was already within us. But we still remember its power. And because of trying to pay reverence, trying to understand it, we come up with all kinds of messed up ways to deal with it. It doesn't matter what kind of household you grew up in this modern time, leaving the axial age behind. Now we're in the age of internet. We have inherited this messed up way of dealing with it. Either it was direct instruction from the authorities in your household, or it was indirect instruction from school, from society, from TV, from internet, from reading, especially from reading, especially those texts that told us we are sacred. Whatever we say, you better do. Whatever we say is the absolute truth. It doesn't matter if you don't understand us. There's something wrong with you. And out of sincerity, we are so gullible. It's not gullible, I would say trusting. Okay, you're telling me the truth. Let me adapt myself to try to understand you, even though something within me is telling me what you're saying makes no sense. But I can somehow see where you're going to. So I'll try to get into your understanding so as not to offend you. When I don't remember how old I was, where this confusing, I have no idea what to call it, feeling, I would say, but it was more than a feeling. This confusing feeling came over me. And I had no instructions as to what it was called. And I would say it was that yearning. And I had no idea what it was a yearning for. And I remember feeling overwhelmed by it. And I wanted to understand it. But at the same time, I felt I shouldn't ask what this was. Even though I wasn't told directly, don't you dare ask me that question. But I can feel it in the air growing up. You better not ask that question. If you dare ask that question, there's something wrong with you for even asking that question. So whenever that feeling would come up, I would take a bat and try to beat it, try to take it out of me. But the more I tried to suppress it, the more I tried to beat it out of me, it seemed like the stronger it got. You would not believe how old I was. Because I was told way later, oh, it doesn't come around that age. I must have been around 5 or 6. Yes, I had an overwhelming sexual urge around the age of 5 or 6. And I had no idea if it was even called a sexual urge. What was that? What do you do with it? So at that age, one can feel something is happening to you and something is somewhat overtaking you, something is overwhelming you, and you feel being overpowered by it. So you can sort of imagine infant humanity somewhat coming into, I think right now, humanity, I would say, is in its teenage years, an adolescent. That's what I think. We are in the age of adolescence as humanity is concerned. So we are very self-destructive. There's a lot of marvel, a lot of adventures we are very interested in going into. At the same time, there is the word of the parent telling us, guiding us, don't do this, don't do that. And yet we feel compelled to investigate, to experience. So at an early age, so before the age of 5, was it not there? Or 5 or 6, was it not there? Or was it there and then there was more of a sense of it's natural. I wasn't so caught up in dualism. So it was just there. Now dualism, it's that thing attacking me, that thing invading my mind, invading my experience. And I have to say, unfortunately, I'm not gonna make an apology for saying it. Unfortunately for me, the model of the person who dealt with it, who appeared to have dealt with it, was this image, the religious image that I was directly and indirectly pointed to emulate. The priests, Catholic priests. And the Catholic priests are supposed to be modeling their behavior after the Savior within Christianity. So this is not to say that there's something wrong with it entirely, and I think it played a big role on how I responded to this thing, this feeling that I was having. And imagine a 5-year-old or 6-year-old feeling shame for something that's naturally occurring within them. Feeling as if you're the devil's child for having this feeling. And being supported by ideas that, yeah, that is the devil's inspiration, the devil's work. So eventually that died out. I guess I did a very good job at suppressing it until a year later. And then it came up again. And this was my first, what do you call that? Direct talk. And it wasn't my parents. It was a much older friend of mine. He was 15. So he knew life. So he could tell me things. I don't know how he knew that I was going through this. I guess he could read the signs in my face or something. And he just started talking to me about that. Or as you grow older, there's this feeling that comes to you. It's called this. And then it will make you want to do this. And when you do this, this thing will come out of you. And I was completely confused. I had no idea what this guy was talking about. But it seemed like he knew what he was talking about. But I began to go more in the direction of it seems to be more natural for me to go in the direction of the path of the priests, the path of not engaging in this. And eventually, of course, that's why when my the friends of my teacher, the colleagues of my teacher, when they saw me coming into the temple, they would say, you are a monk. I wasn't a monk yet. And for me, that wasn't, yes, the feeling didn't completely go away. It was still there. Once in a while, it would attack me, just like maybe that's what that was about. That's what this is about. This is a completely new interpretation in the Christian Bible, or in the Bible. You read about the prophets struggling. At a certain point, they are struggling. They're struggling with God. They're fighting with God. And I think maybe that's what they were going through. They were going through a sexual experience and they were struggling with it. And I felt, and I feel once in a while, that's what happens to me. That's what happened to me. I would push it away, and when it would come back again into with a force, with a power, and I would struggle to take it out of my mind. Eventually, I would calm it down, and so this is how I was living. And so when they saw me, when the other monks saw me, the elder monks saw me, they kept telling me, "You are a monk. You are a monk." I guess they felt the common struggle that they go through. So eventually I became a monk, and it was a very natural thing for me. So as a monk, I came to understand, strangely enough, about sexuality. Before that, I had no idea what that was. My father never had that talk with me. My mother never had that talk with me. I guess my mother was waiting for my father to have that talk with me. My father, I guess, either never got around to it, or was waiting for me to ask, or he just assumed my mother would have that talk with me. So I assume my parents never had that talk with any of us. I have two sisters. It wasn't just until recently that I found that my mother did have that talk with my sisters. And I felt completely left out. I felt jealous that my mother had this talk with my sisters and never had that talk with me. So completely left on my own. Then eventually, as a monk, you have to be, because within Buddhism, you're not just asked to do something without explanation. So celibacy has a reason for the path of the ordained, and it's not like everyone has to. If you want to be on the path towards enlightenment, that you have to become a celibate, but rather it is a measure that some have to go through. And the explanation that is given is there are two paths. Not really two paths, but rather there's a first stage and a second stage. Within Vajrayana Buddhism, there is, you might hear the full picture, so to speak. Within Theravada tradition, that's going to sound like making comparison. Never mind that. I'm just going to stick with Vajrayana. So within Vajrayana Buddhism, which is the Buddhism that I became ordained in, that I studied under. So you have what is referred to as the Vinaya, and you have what is referred to as the mantra system or the Tantra system. And everyone within Vajrayana is supposed to go through both. You're supposed to go through what is referred to as Vinaya, and then you're supposed to eventually go to Tantra. Within the Vinaya system, what you might call the open system, the system open to all, there is that understanding. You could say something messed up happened to us, to humanity, as far as the relationship with sexuality. And we have to just admit it, that we are, I'm sorry to say, I can't think of any other way to say it. I have to say it that way before it to, and I have to make so much excuse to say it. It sounds even funny to make so much a long introduction. I'm about to say a bad word. These are the reason why, and I'm going to say these bad words. We are fucked up as far as sexuality is concerned, and we just have to admit it. I'm not talking about your own personal upbringing. You may have been the best parent to yourself in terms of teaching yourself about sexuality. But society also plays a role, whether you like it or not, in how you respond, how you form your idea of sexuality. And it could have been directly, and most of it is indirectly. And this is something that we have inherited since way back then, when we started to dictate. Oh my God, I mean, it sounds, when you think of it, this natural thing that happens. I mean, can you imagine going to the animal kingdom and then there's a rule book as to how they should respond when this natural thing happens to them? So we have rule books that dictates to other people. It has to be to other people. I'm sure it's not to oneself. That's the usual thing. Dictation to other people, how we want them to behave. How do we want them to respond to this urge that comes up? To the point where in certain societies, there are certain cultures that complete subjugation and I'm trying to think, is there another society where it's not this way? No, I cannot think of another society where it's this way. Other societies, other more ancient cultures or more ancient societies, cultures that have survived, that have maintained, that were not tainted by this dysfunction that happened in way back then. It's egalitarian. But all other cultures, it's either a measure, a degree of subjugating women. That's what it ends up being. I'm trying to think, is there a culture where it's degrees of subjugating men? No. It's degrees of subjugating women. And you can understand, perhaps, when you have your little group and that little group, if we have the same number of people, then we can annihilate each other. But if I have more people in my group than your people, then maybe my number will overcome yours. So it became sex is for increasing the population. So just in case we get attacked, there'll be more of us. Basically, that's what it ended up being. So sex became ruled, regulated, and somehow women got the short end of the deal. And there's this artificial suppression that takes place. And over time, it just seems to get worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where it creates these extremes in certain cultures, in certain places. As a response to the extremes, they feel so dead because of this unnatural response to sexuality, that to make themselves feel alive, they induce pain, actual pain in this act. Or the other extreme, where the pain is not so much pain, the physical pain, but it's more mental, psychological pain, where complete avoidance, complete turning away from it, from this natural urge, from this natural yearning, and giving sort of the background. So because of this dysfunctional way of relating to sexuality that we have inherited, and this inheritance started way back then. So acknowledging that we basically are not reacting, are not dealing with this entirely from our own individuality. We're not responding to it from our own complete sense of understanding. That the understanding that we have about this is completely messed up, it's completely borrowed, and acknowledging that. So the first phase of training is degrees of restraint. But not only because of what this dysfunctional relating that we have inherited, but also because of how we have responded dysfunctionally, either extreme suppression or extreme where it's the only thing occupying our minds. So we have to maintain a balance. So before someone is ordained, they go through a phase of like a, what you call that? Like a novice. Thank you. So you go through a period of being a novice. It's like saying, this is what you're going to have to do. Can you do it? So try it out for a while. And there are some people, they can't really find a way of functioning in a way that is healthy with certain restrictions. So they shouldn't have complete abstinence. But also for those who are not doing complete abstinence, then they also have to do this in measure. So, and now the measured way. The main thing that the Buddha said, do not harm. This energy, this thing, this thing can make you harm yourself, it can make you harm another. So as much as you can, do not harm. Do not harm physically, do not harm psychologically, do not harm mentally. Because we are all messed up. Some of us don't even know to what degree we can be messed up. So approach with caution. Because the main impetus on the path is compassion. Understanding that we're all caught up in this. We're all striving, we all have the yearning, we're all striving after the same sense of satisfaction. So have compassion for all of us, for all other fellow sufferers, fellow yearners. And understand that just like you can become overwhelmed, they can also become overwhelmed. Just like you can experience pain, they too can experience pain. So you take that as the main mode of ethics, morality, of intention. Is this going to harm me? But forget about you. Is this going to harm someone else? Because right now, you're not even thinking about whether you're going to be harmed or not. You're just overwhelmed. And the thing is, in this action, are you going to harm someone psychologically, mentally, physically? And if you sense that you're going to harm, then don't engage. Someone who's too young to understand what's going on, don't engage with them. Someone who's going to become confused, either because they're too young or because they're involved, don't get involved with them. Don't let that be a mode where you express or you experience your sexuality. Within Buddhism, there isn't really marriage is not really something that is It's not an institution in Buddhism. Yes, people get together and they have a family, but there isn't really such a thing as marriage being some forever bonding until the end of time. It's a acknowledgement. There's a something between two people, and then you're expressing it with each other's consent. And that's the other thing: consent. You must not harm, and it must be consensual. Then whatever you do, as long as it's consensual, as long as you're not harming yourselves, then go ahead. But of course, this goes into different societies. Different societies already have their messed up understanding of what this is supposed to be, so they reinterpret this in their own way. So in different Buddhist cultures, you may hear different things. But this is what you will find in the essence of it. Now, because this power, this force overwhelms us, we have to reacquaint ourselves. We have to go beyond the trauma that happened to humanity as far as this relationship with sexuality is concerned. We have to take ourselves away from this trauma, from this reacting to the trauma of it. We have to go beyond that. And to go beyond that, we have to reacquaint ourselves with it. If indeed we unintentionally, instinctively have adopted certain what we consider to be norms, we have to admit it. We have to admit it. And later on, if we find that this, what we think is normal, is actually completely nonsense, we're not going to be able to get rid of it immediately. It took time for us to adopt it. It's going to take time for us to get rid of it. So admit it and take your time to get rid of it. So reacquaint yourself with this. So as a monk, as an ordained person, as somebody who decided to go as far as sexuality is concerned, the path of celibacy, then you sort of go into your history of how we have related with sexuality. For the most part, not fully understanding it, we've only ended up harming ourselves, harming others with it. And we don't want this habit pattern to continue to persist from that going into the future. So we want to put a break in this pattern. And abstinence, celibacy becomes the mode of reacquainting with sexuality. Then after the ordained person has, you could say, a more healthy way of approaching sexuality, there is still a hurdle to go through. And that's where Tantra comes in. Now, Tantra sets a safety environment where one can engage, one can flirt, one can interact with this energy, and still feeling residue of dysfunction still present, and then taking the time to remove the dysfunction, and eventually completely lose this traumatic experience, this trauma that we have with it. And then it becomes, rather than something that we apply values of good and bad towards, it becomes something that is beyond value of good and bad. It is beyond those things. And now we start to understand where this yearning, the essential nature of this yearning that has manifested, that has played out, where it seems like it's the sexual yearning, the sexual attraction, the sexual energy was calling to find someone and then have some sort of pleasant experience. Or even biology calling us to continue the lineage of the biology. Yes, these things are part of it. These things are involved in it, but it's not entirely that. Sexual yearning when you go to its essence, it's a yearning for home. It's a yearning for a part of us that we have lost, and don't ask me when we lost it. We lost it before there was time. We lost it before there was space. So don't ask when. It didn't happen in a when. It didn't happen in a where. That's where we find ourselves. And when we think we found someone, we're not actually responding to we found someone. We actually respond to the find that I think I found that part in me that I've lost. And this yearning for union is a yearning for the re-emergence, for the reintegration of that part that we've lost. So after the trainee takes, after many years of because of the distance, not only you create distance between you and I'm talking about the one who takes the path of the ordained person, because of the distance that you take from sexuality, but not just taking distance. Some people take a distance without doing something to heal the dysfunction, to heal the trauma. The distance becomes just making the yearning even stronger. And making the yearning even stronger, even though there's distance. You have monks who have been ordained for 20 years. They find that they're still in the same place that they were in before, even stronger. Or someone after some years go by, then they have a healthier way of relating with it. On the path, as far as Vajrayana is concerned, it is imperative that you re-establish a healthy relationship with sexuality. And it begins from the very moment that you enter the Vajrayana path. At first, developing a sense of, I should not harm, I should not harm, I should not harm. Okay? And at the same time, reacquainting yourself with what is this energy, what is this thing called sexuality. At first, again, because of the dysfunction, we have to create a distance, an artificial distance, where you even develop a sense where you see it as the devil. And you do this consciously. You see it as the devil. You see it as that which is the reason for all the suffering that you've endured for all your existences. But that is training just to create actually a healthy distance, believe it or not. So you create a distance. You no longer have any or what you might call uncontrolled urges anymore. Now you're starting to have a more healthier attitude towards it, to the point where it even becomes a repulsion. Now, when it becomes a repulsion, now you have gone to the opposite end, and now you have to, while you're in a state of repulsion, now you have to engage. Because you were sick, you started to be healed, and you develop just like in any trauma, you develop a sense of revulsion, and now you have to cure this revulsion. Now it's safe for you to engage, to get involved with sexuality without the danger of it overwhelming you, because you already are at a distance. You're already treating it from a distance. And now you have to start seeing it in a different way. You have to start seeing it as a means to full integration. And how does that happen? Within Tantra, not almost, but every symbol in Tantra is a reminder of sex. Since this is not Buddhist Tantra, I can read it. I'm not I'm not saying that I understand it, but listen to the language. One day the goddess sang to her lover by Rava, "Blessed and radiant Lord of the space before birth, revealer of essence, slayer of the ignorance that binds us, you who in play have created this universe and permeated all forms in it with never-ending truth. I've been wondering. I have been listening to the hymns of creation, enchanted by the verses, yet still I am curious. What is this delight-filled universe unto which we find ourselves born? What is this mysterious awareness shimmering everywhere within us? I have been listening to the love songs of form, longing for formless. What are these energies undulating through our bodies, pulsing us into action? And this matter out of which our forms are made, what are these dancing particles of condensed radiance? What is this power we call life, appearing as the play of flesh and breath? How may I know this mystery and enter it more deeply? My attention is enthralled by a myriad of forms, innumerable individual entities everywhere, flashing into existence and fading away again. Lead me into the wholeness beyond all these parts. Do me a favor, my love. Let me rest in your embrace. Refresh me with the elixir of your wisdom. Ravish me with your truth." And this is the next time, and I'm going to continue much. And then Bhairava replies, "Beloved, your questions, though, touch the heart of wonder, the path of intimacy with all life, weaving together body and soul, sex and spirit, individuality and universality. This is my cave of secrets. Your inquiry has led you here. I feel your fingers on my pulse. Come with me. Leave behind everything you know. The teachings about me are a light show put on by the celestial musicians, as beautiful and insubstantial as clouds." And I read that mainly because of the sexual language that is implied in it. And this is supposed to be a teaching about to understand the universe. Understand the universe as a sexual act, a sexual play, interweaving of things that appears to be opposite. And I can read one little thing within the Buddhist Tantras. May the glorious Lord of Heroes, inconceivable compassion, beyond father, beyond mother, who skillfully binds all phenomena with non-dual understanding, in the mandala of supreme uncontaminated bliss, continually revel in bliss inside the indestructible drop. May I always be nurtured by this inconceivable consort, who skillfully leads the helpless beings to the realm of great bliss as a beautiful, pleasure-giving lover, who performs the magic dance in the sphere while absorbed in compassion. This is an introduction to a highly, I'm not going to tell you what it is, to a highly, to a to what is considered to be the highest teaching. And again, you see how they use sexuality as the language of sexuality. And the reason for this now, to using the language of sexuality, using the symbols of sexuality, now using it with a healthier understanding to get to unravel the mystery of the universe, to get to unravel the mystery of us. According to Vajrayana, even if someone practices the abstinence for a very long time, there will come a time when they will have to leave that behind. And it is, the picture is given. Imagine you've been practicing for a very long time. You've been keeping the practice of celibacy, you practice it to its perfection. And you're just about to reach home, just about to reach enlightenment, complete enlightenment. And you see every enlightened being surround you. And you're in awe by what you see. And also, you're just on the verge of enlightenment, and yet at this very moment, you have the very last mundane sort of realization. And that last mundane realization is, oh my God, I have no idea. Now you really understand. And in that moment, all the enlightened beings around you bathe you, they prepare you. After they prepare you, then emerging from your own consciousness, emerging from your own understanding, they present you with your partner. And now your infantile understanding of sexuality is gone. And in order for you to fully understand, fully reach enlightenment, now you have to engage in the very act of sex. And no longer seeing it the way you used to before. You're free of the trauma that would have made this, that could have possibly made this into just another way of just continuing this dualistic, this realm of suffering. Now you fully see power within it. And it's an incredible power. So you engage in union. And at the same time that you appear to be engaging in what appears to be physical union, something is also happening within you. And simultaneously, you come to realize, then what seems to be the other is an aspect of you, and you are an aspect of the other, of what seems to be the other. And finally, that part that seems to have been missing is finally joined. And you're beyond the appearance of partners, no partners. You're beyond that. It is not. It is not. It is. You're beyond. And it is said that's at that moment that you have given rise to a consciousness that can only be given rise to because of the energy of sexuality, the power of sexuality. It is the last thing. It is the misunderstanding of that power that has kept us away And it is the right understanding of this power that will eventually free us.